Shut up and sit down.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening from wherever you're listening across the world. Welcome to another episode of Just Ball Things. With me today, as always, is the J-Man, Jack Manuel. How are you, buddy?
People seem to like me wearing my hair out, so that's why I do it.
I noticed you did it on a few of the outlet pods. It's looking very Messiah-like, very Jesus-esque. And I don't want to compare you to our Lord, but
in podcast
ability, yes, that's right.
I've been called podcast Jesus on numerous occasions. I'll take it.
Yes, letting the locks out. I've let the locks out as well, except mine is more of a mullet than anything. It's pretty disgusting at the moment. It's like the headphones do a very good job of slicking the hair back. So I'm thankful for Bose. www.bose.com.au. Bose.com. This is sponsored by. It's actually not. No, it's not. I wish. Bose, get in contact. We will sell ourselves out instantly. My name is Nick Busink, and mate, I got some tragic news this week.
Something about your lawn?
I'm getting. No, that would be tragic. I'm getting nerd goggles.
Oh, yeah, you were telling me about this. We're going to have to get the Simpsons clip nerd and play quite consistently on this podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Getting glasses. I got the prescription yesterday, so 3 weeks. You'll see me in 3 podcast time, people. That's 3 podcast time. I will have I'll have some glasses. I've got some hipster glasses, which you'll be happy about because you're a hipster. And I've got some nice... Expensive glasses. Goddamn, I do not envy people who have had to gone through this since they were a kid. I've picked up the bit on the train a bit late, but yeah, better late than never. All right, let's get into this, Jackie boy, because some basketball stuff has happened. You can contact us on Twitter at JBT Nick or at the J-Man JBT, just down below there. We're also closely affiliated with OTG Basketball. They've got an awesome podcast network and news website. We can keep up to date with all things NBA. Make sure you give them a follow at OTG Basketball. Jackie boy is appearing on some lovely Brooklyn Buzz, and assume you've been on Outlet podcasts. So,
we've been just finished up the free agency series, and there's going to be some other series popping off. If you're watching this right now, you already are.
That's
and should be smashed that subscribe button. It should be broken by the time you've smashed it so hard.
You should need a new mouse.
You should definitely need a new mouse or a new laptop or both. But if you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, that's great also. But also, still smash your computer, still smash that subscribe button, go to YouTube as well.
That's it. Like you said, at OTG Basketball on YouTube, where you can catch our show and all of the all of the OTG shows on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Facebook.com/JustBallThings. You can follow us there. Give us a like and a follow. jbtpodcast@gmail.com. Send us an email. We will read them out. Questions, additions, anything you want to see for this podcast, let us know. All right, mate. Busy Man Roll Scale time. Yes, he's wearing the t-shirt. The alternative fact, the Twitter fact, the Wikipedia fact, or the straight up fact. That's how we judge this scale. That's how we sum up how things are going in the NBA. All right, the first one here. Buddy, is this a Brooklyn Bits? Is this a Brooklyn Bits? It is.
Get ready. You got the music for me?
I do have the music for you. All right, let's play it. It's a vibe, Jackie boy. It is an absolute vibe. All right, I'll ask you this one because you're the Nets expert. I think I've heard you're the Nets expert. The Brooklyn Nets are the most interesting team in the NBA heading into next season.
This is an alternative fact.
Ooh.
They're the most interesting team heading into the NBA every season. You got a little bit.
Yeah, you got me, you bitch.
But there are so many intriguing storylines within this team. We had the head coaching news, the coaching collective news, the assistant coaching news, which was probably the biggest news of the day. Mike D'Antoni joining as the offensive coordinator, Ime Udoka joining as the defensive coordinator, Amari Stoudemire we talked about last week. The coaching ranks have now filled out in Brooklyn, and the collaborative nature, it seems awesome. You basically have 4 head coaches there. Mike D'Antoni's been an awesome head coach throughout his tenure in the NBA. Ime Udoka should be a head coach and probably should have been the Chicago Bulls head coach if he wasn't hired, if they didn't hire Billy Donovan. And you've also obviously got Jacques Vaughn, who did an awesome job in Orlando and has had his tenure with Brooklyn too. And we've obviously got the new and incumbent Steve Nash. So to have that expertise on not just their knowledge of basketball and systems and X's and O's, but how to be a head coach, I think it's going to impart well on Steve Nash and being like, well, this is what we're going to do in terms of game days. This is what we have to do in terms of rotations. And that's not even touching on the players. You got Kyrie and KD, who we speak about most podcasts. I speak about every podcast on the Brooklyn Buzz, and they are the 2 most hated on superstars in the NBA, despite their successes on and off the court. And they are going to garner plenty of attention from the national media and beyond. So that's just 2 guys there. Then you've got all the trade possibilities and free agent possibilities that I've discussed in the Brooklyn Buzz with my other guy, Nick Fay. Drew Holiday, Bradley Beal, who we'll chat about a little bit later in the episode as well. Aaron Gordon. Is Spencer Dinwiddie staying? Is Karis LeVert staying? What's going to happen with Jared Allen? DeAndre Jordan. Why is he still there? Why do we have him in the first place? So many different things can happen, and I think that because the Nets are almost the villain heading into next season, but they haven't earned the villain status. Because to me, to be a villain in whatever sport it is, whether it's like a Manchester City, a Collingwood, a Richmond, you know what I mean? Like, people don't like Manchester City.
No, because we bought
whatever.
success.
You have to be
that's very different. But go on.
Well, yeah. You have to be the best and earn that villain status. The Golden State Warriors of yesteryear as well. The Brooklyn Nets are villains basically because of how well constructed they are within the front office coaching ranks, but also because of Kyrie and KD, and just naturally that they gravitate. The hate just like sticks to them like a magnet. So they are interesting in ways more than one, my friend.
I don't think that's accurate. With the hate is. The hate is because they are like success doesn't always follow hatred. The Golden State Warriors before KD were the sweethearts of the NBA and they were the champions twice. Once. And then the whole KD thing happened. Draymond started getting very lippy, and everyone started hating him, and that was from that point. People don't like KD. People don't like Kyrie. That is why they don't like the Brooklyn Nets. They're not looking at hires like you D'Antoni, Udoka. Sorry, my bad. Your Nash and your Stoudemire. They're not looking at that and be like, oh, I hate the Nets so much. This is infuriating me. No, they look at Kyrie's idiocy and his comments to the media, and KD, I think misplaced hate over his going to the Warriors. But people hate him. People call him the Snake. I mean, whatever. It's those are the reasons that they don't like the Nets. But I'm a fact on this one. This is they are the most interesting team. I know more about the Brooklyn Nets coaching situation than I do the Wizards. Of any team. Like, I don't know the assistant coaches of, let alone 4 assistant coaches of any other team in the NBA. But somehow this has made media circles, and that's, I think that's a testament to how into I guess how much of a media presence that this Brooklyn Nets will have, that their assistant coach hires are getting major headlines and getting major news. I think it speaks volumes to how excited other people are, not just us, about this team. It'll be interesting, but I don't think it's necessarily a good thing that this is that this has all happened. I spoke to you, and you said, this is great that we're getting so much media attention on assistant coaches. For me, I think the best part of being an assistant coach is that you are on the sidelines. You do not go in front of the mic. You do not get the headlines. No one's criticizing the assistant coach when things start going badly. But now they might. They'll be like, well, this is a very inherent style of this guy's game when he was playing, and this guy, and we're saying you might see more and more. Like, if there was a clash between like Steve Nash and one of the assistant coaches, if that were to happen, that wouldn't be a news story because everyone would be like, well, I don't give a shit about the assistant coaches. But everyone knows the assistant coach's name now. Everyone knows them. And I think that can potentially be a problem. I guess. Like, just having their name out there, it brings more attention. There's more points of failure, if that makes sense. So, like, rather than just having the head coach, there's a million different things that you could point at in the Nets organization if things go sour. Hopefully, things don't go sour.
Well, obviously. You do make a good point, but I'll throw to you before we get to our next topic. Would you rather have that attention with a Mike D'Antoni, an Ime Udoka, a Jacques Vaughn, and having their expertise and knowledge, and with that comes the negatives of possible future criticism? Or would you rather have guys under the limelight that you have no idea about under Scott Brooks?
Yeah, I mean, I'd obviously rather have the Brooklyn Nets organization right now. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that.
Just coaches though, Nick. I think that's, I guess, the focus point. Because you make a good point, because Mike D'Antoni, if the offense isn't clicking, if the defense isn't, making any strides forward or maintaining, a level, like we were 10th, I think, in defense this year, 8th or 10th. And that was a goddamn shock because we don't have any good defenders on the roster other than Jared Allen. If that dips below, 12th or 15th or whatever, the media will come for Ime Udoka, and Steve Nash might have some words with him. I think you've brought up a good point, but would you rather have their expertise, their knowledge, their just general abilities and knowledge of the NBA?
I mean, these guys are professionals at batting away media speculation and like rumblings and rumors, and they've been doing it their whole careers. So I've no doubt from that perspective, it just from a PR perspective, I guess it's not. It can end badly than any other organization because there's not just one face to point at. You've made, this is the first sort of super team of coaches that I can see. Like you've assembled a super team of coaches because you're getting these players with so much respect, especially Mike D'Antoni, getting him in as an assistant. Man, I can't believe that. I couldn't believe when that. I thought he would take nothing less than a head coaching position. But it is what it is. Just I guess you'd want them on your team. I mean, I would want them on my team. So at the end of the day, it is. I'm just sort of, I guess, playing devil's advocate. It's like, oh, what could go wrong? There's more fingers to point if things start going wrong. Maybe there's, you've assembled this big team of coaching, and maybe Steve Nash's voice gets lost in the middle of it. You've got so many coaches that command so much respect around the league, and maybe there's too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah, sometimes, but that's when you can create some damn good food, Nicholas, as well. Some damn fine food. I'm sure you could use another chef in the kitchen sometimes. You're a great cook from what I hear and from what I've seen. You make a mighty milkshake as well. That also is alluding to our DBS later in the episode, so it makes sense. DBS is back. But another team that I've got segues for days here, mate. Another team.
What? Oh my God! Sorry.
Oh my God! What's going on? I like that song, but I don't want to hear it right now. Jesus Christ!
Push the wrong button.
And you ruined my segue. Yeah. All right, Daryl Morey is going to bring his hyper-transactional mentality to Philly and elevate them back into championship contention. So I guess this is a two-pronged BMS.
Okay. I thought I was getting confused with DBS, and the music was coming in, and I'm all over the shop, Jackie boy. I mean, I've got the fancy ass mouse that has a million buttons, and you can press the wrong button sometimes. It's crazy.
We are pressing the wrong buttons.
I loved this for Philly. I think Daryl Morey is such a good GM for anywhere that he goes. I don't think he's actually GM. He's president of basketball operations.
President of basketball, which is the number
whatever. Yeah. They're all GMs. Like executives. So they'll all go into the pool of executive of the year, which is whatever. Let's not get into executive of the year.
Yes, Nick. No, you don't like it. Yes.
I love this for starters. I think it will elevate Philly into East contention. I'll put that. I guess they're already in East contention, but I guess more so. Obviously, you get the Boston Celtics who are going to get better. Miami Heat will still be a threat. Brooklyn Nets, of course, and I think Philly are Bucks as well. Okay, could I forget about the Bucks? I mean, there's a lot of teams there, and then you add Philly there as well. I think this is precisely the move that sort of papers over cracks that we talked about with the Doc Rivers signing. How they were saying they didn't have that sort of that leading hand, and I think Daryl Morey at the helm is 100% that leading man. Will instill some sort of culture shift and change. Will get the best out of the employees below him, and if that in turn moves into getting the best out of Simmons and Embiid, whether they can, because a lot of their problems have been sort of supporting roster, and Daryl Morey obviously is the guy to change that. See what he can do in the off season. Hopefully a lot. I've got a soft spot for Philly. Ben Simmons being Aussie, Brett Brown obviously gone now, but I got a soft spot for Philly, and I truly hope that they can at least. They should be looking for at least taking the East. They need to. Their minimum should be NBA Finals.
Yeah,
if they're their organization, their minimum should be NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean they were 3 bounces away from it 2 years ago, I think you make a really good point, Nick. On Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are 2 top 10, top 15 players, top 18, whatever you want to call them. And that's what Daryl Morey loves. He loves having the superstars. And now he can do some of his best work in getting those role players to surround them. What he did in Houston by getting the most out of guys like Ben McLemore, Gerald Green, these sort of dudes. But their roster construction of Philly is really different. Al Horford, Tobias Harris on inflated contracts.
Yep.
One or both of them. I don't expect both of them. I don't think teams will take both of them. But one of those guys is as good as gone. And what Daryl Morey does to surround, because we go back to 2 years ago, and even before that, everyone sort of says, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid don't work. The numbers show that when you surround them with a supporting cast that can shoot and play make a little bit and pass a little bit, and with guys that just aren't 6'10" and can do nothing, then they're going to be a really good team, because Ben Simmons is basically does everything on the court but shoot the basketball, which is, I guess, a bad thing because it's basketball. You want the ball to go into the hoop. Joel Embiid is maybe the most efficient player since Shaq in the post. And despite the fact that Daryl Morey is all about shooting threes, Embiid can still do that a little bit, but he also is just about hyper efficiency. What is hyper efficient? Put Joel Embiid in the low block and let the man go to work.
Yep.
But he needs to be able to kick it out to guys like JJ Redick of yesteryear, Marco Bellinelli, these sort of dudes, and Robert Covington. If they can get some of those guys on the roster, I think they can take the leap that you want them to take. But this is where the hyper-transactional mentality, what I was sort of alluding to. When we talked about Daryl Morey's departure, he made either the most or second most transactions in his tenure in Houston. Will he bring that to Philly, or will he give it a little bit of time? I think he needs to make moves now. Now, it needs to be at least one move, Harris and or Horford, as I alluded to, whether that's getting in Buddy Hield, or they need some just shooting and guys that do more than just play defense. Whether it's Josh Richardson, he still has a lot of value. I just think that there needs, and Daryl Morey's good at getting the supporting cast. He's good at getting the most out of guys that are on like $4 million contracts, vet minimum contracts. There are a few GMs that do it better. And obviously the salary it's much different to Houston. But I'm really intrigued to see what happens. Whether that elevates them, because like you said, the East is at least stacked in those 4 or 5 spots in those teams that you mentioned. I expect Milwaukee to take a jump. Like you mentioned, Miami will still kick around there. And I hope my Brooklyn Nets, the most interesting team of next year, will get better and be in championship contention and overtake all of those guys. But it's going to be a fun season, though, especially that Atlantic division. Dear Lord, you didn't even mention the Toronto Raptors either. The Atlantic division has Boston Celtics, Philadelphia 76ers, Toronto Raptors, Brooklyn Nets, and the New York Knicks. Whatever. Tom Thibodeau, baby. Tom Thibodeau. We chatted about him last night a little bit when you came over.
Yeah, that's
that was
right.
fun. That was fun.
Yeah.
RJ Barrett playing 49 minutes of a possible 48-minute game. But yeah, I mean, if it can happen anywhere, it can happen under Tom Thibodeau. But I think it's really, really intriguing, and I'm intrigued to see the partnership between Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers. They're making some nice assistant coaching hires as well. I think that the Eastern Conference is becoming more and more interesting by the day, and the head coaching and how the front office is sort of filled out. I think I said this on the buzz. At the end of the day, the players just got to go out there and do the work. But the ownership, doing the right things behind the scenes, providing them with the most success and with the smartest people possible to make the decisions is step one. Step two is the biggest step, where it's like Kyrie, KD need to show up. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid need to show up. Giannis needs to take a step forward and really lead the Milwaukee team. At the end of the day, this is a player-driven league. This is the reason why we salivate over them, and they are some of the best superstars that we've seen in many a year. It's got to be up to the players at the end of the day. Maybe Al Horford, he doesn't make a trade, and Al Horford bounces back to the Al Horford of Boston Celtics days. But did you have anything more you wanted to add before I move on to another, I guess, Milwaukee sort of counterpart team?
Just echoing the sort of sentiments I made before, just that this is an absolute win for Philadelphia. They should be incredibly excited coming into next season. And go Sixers. Like, am I a Sixers fan? Like, is this happening? Am I flipping between teams now? Who would you rather see win the chip next year? Would you rather the Sixers or the Brooklyn Nets? I know you got a soft spot for both of them. Sixers. Sorry. I'd rather the Sixers. Just because the Nets seem weirdly favourites. I think we talked about this, that they were like sort of... Despite the fact that they haven't proven anything, they've just got such sheer talent, and obviously all the hires, and everyone's so hyped. But if Philly can spoil that party, I mean, Philly have been disappointing. They haven't been meeting expectations for like 4 seasons now, and it's time to break that. I think Daryl Morey, Doc Rivers, that partnership can be really, really dynamic. So, fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Now, Nick, I know I can't hear the video. This one itself, I highlighted it green. I apologize. It needs to be yellow. We need to listen to this one. The fans need to listen to this one. I wanted to bring something to the pod that was quite popular on Twitter, but for those that aren't on Twitter and haven't seen this, Kyle Korver was speaking to, I think he's college alumni, about Milwaukee's decision to boycott the game against Orlando. It's a bit of a long video, so do stay with us. It is worth watching the large majority of it. We're going to start it from about the mark where he sort of recounts the lead up to the decision, why it happened, all the background to it. Stay with us. We want to provide our opinions to it. That we're lucky enough to have a platform to speak about these things, and sometimes things are bigger than basketball. And what Kyle Korver is speaking about here, worth listening to. Nick will be able to take us back into when we have our opinions and get back to the BMS. But Nick, when you're ready, from about 14 seconds, this tweet. And feel free to play whether it's the whole 6 minutes or 5 minutes or 4 minutes.
You should be able to. You should be able to hear it yourself. So we'll
cool.
just.
What were the challenges that were running through your mind as you assessed the situation, like right before the game time, of deciding to boycott your team along with your teammates? Because you've had a voice for racial equality, notably from the incident in Utah with OKC. And what was your approach to kind of addressing those conversations about Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter and those hard conversations with your Bucks teammates?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'd had a lot of conversations about all this, and a couple days before, Jacob Blake had been shot, and then there was a story about a young white kid running through the street, and he was shooting people. Our team was super raw. Like, I think a lot of people were, but just being that was where we were from. People were really feeling the story and really feeling the pain. And so we walked into that game and, we're trying to get ready for a playoff game, but we're not really there mentally. And there was a series of events that happened. One of our coaches, Darvin Ham, I'm sure he'd be fine with me telling this story, but he's got 2 sons that are in their 20s who they live in Milwaukee, right? He's thinking about them. Darvin Ham's a big man. He played at Texas Tech. I don't know if you guys remember him shattering the backboard like big, strong guy, big guy. And he's in tears. And he came in and he said something like, "It's kids out on the streets." It's really emotional. And went into this the locker rooms were kind of weird, but there was like a little coaches thing that had been set up, and like just took the whole thing down. Everyone's jumped up, and everyone's already on edge, and everyone's already in bad headspace. And I just sat there in my chair with tears running down my face. And I'm looking at my jersey that says Black Lives Matter. And I'm just like, what are we doing? And so we had one teammate, George Hill, decided that he wasn't going to play. And Sterling Brown on our team, who has his own case going on in Milwaukee right now, it's still open. He stopped at a Walgreens at like 1 in the morning, and police pulled him over, ended up tasering him, arrested him for no reason, right? It's still, he's trying to create change in the city, and there's a whole court case going on. And he said, I'm with George. And he stood up and he's like, "You guys don't have to do this if you don't want to. Me and George are going to sit out tonight." And we all just sat there and we're like, we're all with you. Right? We're with you. And there was like 13 minutes on the clock. Like, this was happening in real time. We just kind of sat there and let the clock run out. And it's always interesting for me, like as a white man in these spaces, like what to do, right? How do I help as a white man? What do I say as a white man in this space? And you know what you do? You stand with the marginalized. And when you can, you amplify their voice. And you listen to their thoughts. And you listen to their ideas. And then you find your way to help out. In that moment, I'm like, yo, I'm with you. We had a conversation after that with like, we can't just not play this game and then go back to our room and play cards or video games. Like, what are we going to do at this moment now? And so we were in the locker room for a long time, and we ended up talking to the governor, the lieutenant governor, and he told us in that moment that after all the protests that had happened in Milwaukee, that the state legislature hadn't met one time to talk about any kind of change. All the protests, all the conversations, all the pain, they hadn't met one time. And we're like, guys, what are any of us doing? How do we create change? Right? So we talked to a bunch more people. We ended up talking to Jacob Blake's family. And his parents were so incredibly kind and gracious, and they held out this phone, and we all kind of huddled around to hear. And they just like poured love on us, because we're in this moment where we're hearing other teams are not playing. I think some people are probably mad at us, and in that moment when we're sitting there listening to his family, his parents, we just sat there. We stood around the phone and cried. And we're like, we don't know exactly what the future holds. We're not sure exactly what our plan is going forward, but we're doing the right thing. This is the right thing. And it was an incredible moment. And then to watch the rest of the teams join us, right, across the country, it was really powerful.
Good stuff there from Corva. Jackie boy, the point the point to discuss here, Milwaukee's decision to boycott their game against Orlando was more important than the LA championship.
Fact, Nick. This moment maybe defines the year in a lot of ways. Now, it's been a shit show of a year, but the point that I really like, there was a lot of stuff from Corver there, and his just brutal honesty and just forthrightness was just moving. One thing that I really like from him is just like, what are we doing here? And like, how can we make a change? And how can I make a change as a white man? And how can I amplify their voices and the marginalized voices? And the decision that they made, like you said, left a ripple effect across sports. You know, now we still see in the EPL before every single game, the players kneel, and we hear the commentary from some of the commentators, which is great. Sort of, no room for racism. The movement maintains because of the decision that Milwaukee made. The spontaneity of it, the organic nature of it, to me, is what is, and the rawness of it. You can tell how raw that decision is. It's in the moment. We just let the time run out. Like, hearing that is just like, man, like they could imagine the thoughts going through all of the players' heads, all of the coaches' heads. Just like, we're going to piss off some people here. We're going to rattle some feathers. But true change has to come from discomfort. And discomfort was all around from so many different parties. And obviously, the Lakers win the championship. Awesome. LeBron's legacy, Anthony Davis, all that sort of stuff. It's cool. We love the NBA. We do an NBA podcast. But there are things bigger than basketball. And these issues that pertain to us and pertain to every person out there, I've said like a couple of quotes on JBT and game recaps or whatever. I can't remember it specifically, but I hope I'm recounting it correctly. And I can't remember who says it, but it's like, if the marginalized are the only voices that are the loud ones, and the people who aren't being affected aren't speaking up, then true change isn't going to happen. Like, myself and Nick aren't going through the atrocities, the systemic racism, the embedded atrocities that happen to people of color and of different creeds and walks of life that don't happen to a person who looks like me or a person that looks like Nick. And if we're not talking about it, then it's not going to change anything, because the voices that are being heard consistently are the ones that are being marginalized. So we need to speak up about it and sort of follow Kyle Korver's lead, follow JJ Redick's lead, follow so many of the NBA players in their lead, and not just theirs, but the people around the world that are continuing to maintain this movement to bring about change, because change doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen from a freaking 5-minute segment on a podcast. But we're lucky enough to have a platform to speak about this. And to me, this is more important than speaking about Daryl Morey or the Brooklyn Nets or whatever, because it's something that I'm truly passionate about and speaks to me at my core. And I know it's the same for you, Nick.
Yeah, when all this was happening, it was all. It wasn't a sort of looking back into it in hindsight and saying, yeah, that was the right thing to do. It was an instant, at least for us, it was an instant sort of gratification to be like, yeah, this makes sense. They're obviously they've been trying to sort of fight a point for so long and nothing was getting through. Obviously, it was quite jarring to hear that the Senate, that they hadn't met, I guess the Milwaukee government hadn't met after all the protests that had happened. It's like, so what change is actually happening? You get public outcry like that in such a profound way, and nothing sort of comes of it, which is just bad. And obviously that's going to be like, well, we don't feel right playing this game when there are, all of this stuff that we want to focus our energies on. And, props to them. And I would encourage anyone to do that. If you have the means to do that. And that's the sort of important thing. These guys have the means and the platform to be able to make significant change. So would you not want that? You don't want me, for example, being the loudest voice, because my voice is not loud. You would want the people with the biggest platforms to be the loudest voice, because they are the ones that can instill change. That's a sort of like a knock on anyone who says that, these sports people should stay in their lane, blah, 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 blah. You want these, we have made them celebrities. We have given them the power to do this. So we should be the ones who continue to empower them, these people should, just like how we publicly, degrade those who poorly. Kevin Spacey's even like likes of Allen recently. It's the whole cancel culture. Not necessarily a bad thing, like to publicly condemn these people and is a good thing. But then when people speak about injustices and speak about good things, we should celebrate that. And not, if a certain agenda doesn't suit you, you shouldn't just back into them. You should be celebrating that they're able to take the steps to fully express themselves and try to create a better place for everyone. It seems silly that I'm saying this. It seems so common. It seems like such a common sense notion, but it's not. Apparently, it's not.
Yeah. It's something that we're going to continue to talk about on this podcast whenever we see a chance to. Obviously we want to make our voices heard in it, and because, again, like Nick sort of said, no one really cares, but when you have some sort of a platform and some sort of means to make your voice heard for an issue that is truly important, we'll do it on this podcast. If we have the means to donate to certain organizations, we will do that and have done that. We'll finish with, before we get to some of your topics, my friend, food. We'll get to a topic that you're probably not going to like. I'm sorry, Nick. Bradley Beal on JJ Redick's podcast.
The Washington Wizards is making noise.
I drank some bleach all the way down to the blue, and now I'm starting to feel like Harry Potter.
This segment certainly lives up to the name of woes. This is anyway. Let's listen to what he had to say.
It was more or less, do I want to have something built around me, and I had that opportunity to do it here, or do I want to kind of test the waters, and that's kind of what made me do so. But I signed my deal and kind of, structured it to where I still have some flexibility, because at the end of the day, I still want to win, and the organization has to show me that we want to win. I want to see what John's like as well. So we there's always going to be, hope in that direction, but you still want to be able to protect yourself and, kind of be selfish in that regard. And, how can I, create some type of flexibility for myself, if we aren't winning, if I do choose to get out. So that's why I was more or less a 2-year with 1-1 versus, the full 3-year. And so, and then on top of that, the all NBA kind of screwed me too. And then so the 10-year vet max as well. But, you just kind of trying to position myself, later down the line, with an organization that I have an opportunity to build around myself. But, at the same time, I want to win, and they know that, and they have to show that.
Jackie boy. Sad. Bradley Beal's comments on JJ Redick's podcast indicate his days in Washington are numbered.
Nick, give your woeful woes. You can communicate about this one first, my friend, or do you want me to, because you're going to cry yourself to sleep?
I mean, the underlying argument that he made was that he wants to win. That's it. I mean, that's the nail in the coffin there. Unless we can show something. I mean, my God, we have to show something next season. But I don't know if that's even possible. Like, I don't know if just the addition of Wall will, create a playoff team. I mean, maybe not. I mean, that'll be the aspirations, of course. But if we don't make the playoffs this season, then I think his decision will be made. And like you said, it gives him a lot of flexibility. His 1-on-1 contract gives him a lot of flexibility to move off if he wants to. I don't think he's got a lot of faith in this organization. And why would you? We've given him no reason to have faith in this organization. I completely understand why he's doing the things that he's doing, because who would want to stay? We are not an appealing destination. All of the crap that has happened, internally, and we're not playing well on the court. I mean, it's a dire situation. It's woeful. It is a woeful situation in Wizards land. And, I mean, this is a fact. His days... This is a Twitter fact. Sorry, this is a Wikipedia fact. Okay, I'm getting confused with my own scale. It's likely that he's going to leave unless we can somehow prove that we are on the right track. And it needs to be like an immediate track. It can't be a track in 5 years down the road when Beal's out of his prime, potentially. Wall's not exactly a spring chicken. Beal is our best asset at the moment. And he has the right to be able to demand, well, I want to win. If you guys aren't showing me that you can win in the next 3 years, then I'm going to bounce. And I think that's completely fair.
Yeah. Every player that is of the ilk of Bradley Beal, All-NBA, All-Star, should be able to drive their own future in some sort of way. And, even within the East, obviously the Brooklyn Nets rumors have been plenty. I think, even a Milwaukee or a Philly, those teams are much more winning teams than your Washington Wizards, unless Davis Bertans and Rui Hachimura one of them becomes a third star. Again, dire straits, very woeful, but woeful Wizards ways that are ahead. Yeah, I think that the sheer honesty from me was almost surprising.
It is surprising, but he's got nothing to lose at this point. I don't think. Are Wizards fans insane? Are they insane to think that they should command complete loyalty from this star when your organization has been nothing but shit? I'm not delusional. I want him to stay. Of course, it's the best thing for the organization. But it's definitely not it could potentially not be the best thing for Bradley Beal. In fact, it's definitely not the best thing for Bradley Beal.
Yeah, I think that the speculation will certainly heat up probably come the trade deadline, depending on where the Washington Wizards are at. If they are around the 8th seed, which I think would be a good season for them, with John Wall, if John Wall does come back to a semblance of the version of himself when he's not playing cards in interviews like we talked about last week on the podcast. Yep, roll eyes emoji are plenty there from my guy Nick Busing. He's going to knock his head off, knocking his mic there. But who knows what will happen? The NBA world's a funny thing. Maybe you guys start wearing those black funeral suits again, and
literally the decline of our entire organization happened from that day.
Yeah,
literally happened from that day.
Basically,
oh man,
it was a turning point. But Nick, I think you may have the music for DBS, a food-inspired DBS.
Ooh, will it play through? Oh, you've put me on the spot here, Jackie boy. A DBS. Sorry, I should have been prepared. Hopefully that's coming through.
Steven, I like your hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you.
Bench.
No! God, please, no! No!
Start.
All right, that's more like it.
This is DBS.
Now, hopefully that came through for the good people. I know it came through your headphones, Jackie boy. Your dance moves certainly gave that away. All right, Jackie boy. We've got an interesting DBS here. Very interesting, to say the least, because it's not basketball related at all in classic JBT fashion. It is a DBS. It's an off-topic DBS. Let's just put it that way. Jackie boy, this week's drop bench start. We have cookies. We've got cake, and we've got milkshakes.
Okay. Now, you haven't filled out the doc. Clearly prepared as always, my friend.
Always.
Do you have some of the food porn playing in the background?
I do. Hold on. We're getting there. It's just a lady speaking right now. There we go. Ooh,
there we go. All right. So what's playing right now, my friend?
So we've got some milkshakes.
Some
milkshakes on the screen. Ooh,
yes.
Look at them milkshakes.
Now, I will say, I recounted earlier about your milkshake making skills.
Mm-hmm.
Top notch, mate. Top notch.
Thank you.
But
just milk and ice cream.
The simplicity of milkshakes is great. The complexities of cake, though, are great. And the cookies is like somewhere in between. Now, I'll give my little bit of a spiel on milkshakes. You can go back and in fact, no, I'll just say where I've got them. I'm dropping milkshakes. I'm benching cake. And I'm starting cookies. Now, this is probably
what the...
This is probably a shock to you and many others.
Look at those milkshakes, Jackie boy. They're just
great. I can't see them, but I assume
oh yes, you can't see them, but they're great. They're great. They're awesome.
Look, I did put these videos on there, so I know what's going on. I also put like we'll eventually get to like a cookie one and a cake one as we go on and discuss our choices. The reason why I dropped milkshakes, Nick, is because look, they are a liquid form. Now I can have.
Yes, they are a drink, Jack. It's true.
I can have a lot of cookies. Like, are you a fan of the Coles cookies?
Yes, I am. They're very good.
I have the entire box. I have all 6 of them in one sitting. I am a fat man, but I enjoy to indulge in those, especially those triple choc ones. The milk chocolate ones are good, but I love me the triple choc. The triple choc cookies are, and always a little bit of a tip for a person who's worked at a supermarket, whether this probably happens not just in Australia, but all over the world. When in baked goods, they always hide the fresher ones at the back because they want to sell the older ones that are going out of date and used by at the front. So cheekily, grab the back ones. They're always that little bit fresher. And a freshly baked cookie, oh my God. It is the best thing out of this entire list. A cake obviously maintains its consistency. A milkshake, what's a fresh milkshake? It's always going to be cold. Just put it in the fridge. But there's a difference. We chatted about this a little bit off wax. There's a difference between milkshakes and freak shakes, where you've got like a donut on top of cake, on top of a cookie anyway, on top of a brownie. And it's like dessert inception within the milkshake.
Yeah, well, that's a milkshake, though.
It's a freak shake, Nick.
No, it is a milkshake. But it is a milkshake that, okay, keep going.
The milkshake is the milk and the ice cream and maybe some shavings of chocolate or some sauces.
It's the drink, Jack. The whole drink. It's just like saying the cookie doesn't actually have, the cookie isn't the chocolate chips. It's just the butter and the sugar and the baking powder and that's it. That's all really it is. No, it's the amalgamation of all of those ingredients cooked. So it's the amalgamation of all of the ingredients in a milkshake blended together.
But they blend. Don't just like mic drop me after that shit. Just because you said amalgamation. The amalgamation, the combination of ingredients for the milkshake are within the liquid. And the toppings, I agree. Like, putting like maybe a marshmallow or a cherry or whatever. A simple topping on top is part of the milkshake. If you're putting donuts and cake and cookies and whatever and brownies, those aren't milkshakes. They are freak shakes because they are freakishly large because they are combining with other desserts, Nick. Now, I've spieled a little bit about milkshakes here. If you want to play one of the other videos, whether it's cookies, whether it's the cake ones, while you spiel about your choices.
Oh my God. I'm so bad at this.
That's right. Take 2.
There we go. So you I mean, I'm joking on my own rage here. I just can't fathom not just dropping milkshakes. Are you serious? I'll start cookies. I get the cookie appeal. I get it. They're great. Homemade cookies are the best. Obviously, you've got a million different types of cookies. Like my favorites, Subway cookies are by far my favorite. The macadamia.
We were in New York. Did we go to Insomnia cookies at all? Did I go with Insomnia too?
Don't know. No, I don't think so.
When we're allowed to fly on planes again, first thing we're doing, we are catching a one-way flight to New York, and we are going to Insomnia cookies for each and every meal, like with you with those pizza slices.
Damn right. Okay, I'm excited. You can do a million things with. The versatility of a cookie is great. Oreos, if they're counted as cookies, I guess they're not quite your standard, but I love Oreos. Like biscuits, as we call them here, like digestive biscuits with the chocolate covered. So good. And I guess the homemade ones are the best ones. My brother makes a mean cookie.
He does.
Have you had those? They're so good. They're so good.
Hope you make them. Maybe.
And I compared them with my my mum made a pair, my brother made a batch, and I was the taste tester. And my mum's Italian. It's hard to say, hey Ma, your cookies just aren't up to scratch. But I'm sorry, they weren't. My brother definitely won that battle. They're so good. So I get the appeal. Not only that, but you crumble cookies in ice cream. You crumble cookies in milkshakes, and it makes everything so good. So cookies number one. Milkshakes number two because of those things. You can put a cake in a milkshake. You can put a cookie in a milkshake. You can put different flavored ice creams in a milkshake. The Golden Gay Time sort of stuff. I don't know if that's American or if it's solely Australian. It's an amazing ice cream. Those sort of milkshakes are amazing. You put like Milo in there. You put, like I said, like different sorts of biscuits. You get that little crunch. You put cream in there. So good. My problem with cakes is that too often a cake can be absolutely bottled. You can stuff up cakes. You can stuff up cookies, but it's not as hard. You can't stuff up milkshakes. You just blend ice cream and milk. I mean, at its core, that's what it is. And a little bit of like syrup and some sort of syrup. That's it. The
best version of a cake is better than the best version of a milkshake. Do you agree with that at least?
No.
Really?
Because the best version of a milkshake is your freak shakes. That's what I mean. I would.
But those aren't milkshakes. We've established.
Fine. Even your best basic ass milkshake with like made with like awesome cream and all like the best milk and flavor some ice cream and nice syrups, blah blah blah. Maybe some cookies in there, a little bit of chunk. It's all great. So much. Give me that rather than depends on the cake. Cheesecake is number one. If this is a cheesecake, then cakes are topping.
Cake is in the name, Nick. I guess
true. Cakes are topping. But if I'm thinking of like a traditional like birthday cake sponge, maybe even like a red velvet. Chelsea made a mean carrot cake. I'm not a huge fan of carrot cake, but it was pretty good. Cream cheese frosting, great. But if we're just talking like your run-of-the-mill baked cakes, no, not for me. Not for me. Dropping them, I wouldn't want them at all. If I had the choice there, and there was 3 desserts, it doesn't even matter what the other desserts are, and there was like a birthday cake or something there, I'm not eating the cake.
Wow, that is shocking behavior.
I don't I don't really like cakes unless it's a cheesecake. Then it's awesome.
What do you have for your birthday dessert?
Cheesecake.
Okay, well,
cheesecake is my birthday cake.
Mum made Dad one for his birthday as well,
and I would be making it. Like it's no surprise it's here. I'd be making my own cheesecake.
I think I've tasted your cheesecakes before. They're really great.
Good. Yeah. And then I would have you can have vanilla slices, like apple pie. Oh my god, there's so many other desserts that are so much better than just cake. Cake, I feel, is just so basic, and it's just I'm dropping it. So I'm starting cookies. I think we're both starting cookies.
We are
both starting cookies. Yeah, they're good. Then milkshakes are just so good. I love me a milkshake. And then cakes are shit.
Is it just because you can't make a good cake?
No, I've had a good cake, quote unquote good cake. I just don't see the appeal. Be like,
what about buttercream, Nick? That buttercream is
sure, but that's frosting, Jackie boy. But
that's part of the cake. That's
It's the top part of the cake. If I could just eat the buttercream frosting, then that would be awesome. Like cream cheese frosting is amazing. No. I mean, I'm not liking 90% of the cake. Not liking. It's just not. I wouldn't yearn for it. I've never yearned for a cake. I've never felt like, oh man, I could go for some cake.
To end this podcast, I'm Googling as we speak types of cake. And I'm going to throw them at you, and you're going to tell me like yay or nay to these types of cakes. Now, I'm on a website that has 15 different types of cake. Yellow butter cake, which I'm assuming just has buttercream, chocolate, and it's just a sponge. Yeah.
That's pretty low for me. No.
Okay. Red velvet.
It's better. But it's not breaking the milkshake. It's not breaking above the milkshake.
Okay. You alluded to carrot cake already, so we'll move on from that one. Sponge cake, I already know your thoughts on that one. What about a Genoese cake?
I don't even know what that is.
Genoese is a sponge cake. What a sponge cake is called in Italy or France. You should know this. You're an Italian man.
No.
Fair enough then. What about angel food cake? The really light one. They're like sort of melt in your mouth.
I am not privy to the different types of cake, it would seem.
Wow.
No, because milkshakes are just better. I mean, I can't explain it any better than that, Jackie boy.
What about one of the best, the most chocolatey, the most crumbly, the most frosting oozed with devil's cake?
They're good.
Yeah, there we go.
They're good. So, like... No, I'd still prefer a milkshake. I don't know. I'd still prefer a milkshake. Maybe put the devil's cake inside the milkshake. Then we'll talk.
We've established this already. Stop trying to change the parameters and consistency and structure and amalgamation, to use your word, of the milkshake. I'm done, mate. I'm done. Devil's food was the best one I had. Couldn't even get you.
Didn't even get to cheesecake, mate. I mean, we already know my feelings of cheesecake.
We know, and for me, it wasn't even the list. I think they were talking about pure cakes. They had like, carrot cake and pound cakes and those sort of things. So I'm like, Nick's not gonna like this stuff.
No. I've made my voice heard, and I am right, Jack. You are wrong. You can't drop milkshakes. They are the lifeblood.
This is going on Twitter because there's not much basketball content going on now, and we've done food takes before, and they've done a little bit of traction. So there is no
way, and I'm sorry for generalizing here. There is no way an American audience chooses a cake over a milkshake. There is no way.
I'm calling that
now.
I'll put a poll out, as well as a clip from us discussing, arguing at the rest. And we will see. Now, I don't know how much traction this poll will get, but that will be the deciding factor. And next week, we will revisit. The people will decide which are the most popular forms of dessert out of these three.
I better get to voting. Vote at the J-Man JBT. And I'll be retweeting it as well, at JBT Nick. All right, Jack. Fabulous show. That just about does it for another week. So I'd just like to say thank you for tuning in to Just Ball Things. You can catch us, as always, on the podcast network, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Player FM, Spreaker, Spotify. This will be up on all of those podcast networks. We're also on YouTube, obviously, at OTG Basketball. Give them a subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe. All of those good things. Notification bell so you know that when we upload our content and OTG's content. If you are listening to us on podcast and specifically on Apple, do us a solid and leave us a rating and review. 5 stars. Helps us out a bunch in terms of rankings and helps other people find the show. So remember, it's you guys that make the show great, so we appreciate any and every post heading our way. So until next week.
Keep eating cake, superstars.